Right. So it kind of looks like the direction a lot of political momentum is moving in is kind of more patchworks, like more sensitivity trainings, diversity initiatives,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Do you think if these initiatives passed and there were more diversity initiatives and more sensitivity trainings, and then that didn't work, would that move the conversation forward, or is this entire back and forth just completely in the world of ideology?
No, I think that's where we are, right? The officers responsible for the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis had implicit bias training, de-escalation training, mindfulness training. We're wearing body cameras. We're a diverse group of officers. We're operating under a new use of force policy around sanctity of life. I mean, Minneapolis enacted all these reforms, and it just made no difference. And that's what people have seen and experienced across the country is that, here in New York, after they killed Eric Garner, they did implicit bias training and body cameras and de-escalation training. And nobody who watched the NYPD this summer could possibly say that any of that made any difference.
Right.
Because it just didn't. And so that's why the new movement is about defunding the police, about taking away this role for policing rather than imagining we can fix them with a training program.
It's a systemic problem, and you really see the way that the liberal mind conceives of and portrays this stuff in the media being very individualistic. It's all, this is an aberration. A cop doing something bad is a cop doing their job bad. They don't see that the problem is their job is the bad, what they're supposed to do is the bad thing or whatever. And what's really funny about that to me is that you have this situation where you had police violence looked pretty bad. So, at some point we go, well, why don't we diversify the police? Now we have this diverse thing with its boot on your neck, and it's like not solving this problem at all. But with the sensitivity training, I just can't help imagine at some point I'm gonna get gunned down by some guy in like a SWAT gear suit up thing who's just like, I see you, I hear you. Like he's not the point is like completely missed.
They beat the guy up who did the diversity trainings in San Francisco. He got beat up at one of the summer protests by the cops he had been giving implicit bias training to.
Jesus. That had to be incredibly cathartic for somebody.
Well, revealing, if nothing else.
I guess something I've been kind of fixated on since the fallout of the Capitol riot is this Eugene Goodman guy, because what I feel like is happening is that there was a police officer who eventually, when everyone sifted through enough footage, they found a story that made for liberal, catnip or bait or whatever. It bubbled its way to the top of the media discourse next week, which is that there's an officer who's black, right? So you can't be like, this is a mean white guy cop, and he made some moves that were like looked kind of effectively like smart policing or whatever. And what we get out of this is a story where no one really knows why they're particularly celebrating this guy, but they're like, look, it can be done. There is a way to do policing that that is good and functions. And I guess to me, it struck me as particularly liberal because it was also like very individualistic. So a liberal kind of is going to look at police and go, well, some of these are very, very bad at the job and some of them are really good at the job. And let's move from there in terms of assessing how to fix the problems that are a result of the job. But like, what are we just going to hire a bunch of really, really good cops or look at what the job is itself, What do you think about that? Because to me, it struck me as
I think you're absolutely right. This was a liberal defense of policing. To try to restore their reputation. And so that's absolutely what was going on, is trying to re-legitimate this idea that there is this thing that's good policing and this guy is the embodiment of it. Of course, that ignores the overall outcome of what happened, right? Many deaths, destruction, and profound political failure.
Right. Yeah. You can kind of see the absurdities and the logic of the individual argument there, because I mean, what's the end goal? I mean, the end step of a structural critique, and it's that we change the way the police functions. If the problem is just there aren't enough good cops, you just get into a Clone Wars style situation where you just take the really good one and find a way to spread their seed as many times as you can. And
That's what my grandfather was. We should, they just want to clone him. That's
Django Fett. Yeah,
that's the strategy.
Right, I'm doing a selfie with Django Fett.
It's the original one.